outfit is strong enough to endure the storms and keep us warm. We improve spaces by taking them up. The gift is meant to be opened.
I'm so glad that today my colleagues agreed that we will be calling for a 40 decibel limit on tube noise across London.
And I'm delighted today that the Assembly is supporting Battersea Cats and Dogs in their quest to put an end to animal cruelty.
That there are over 130,000 children and young people who live in London who do not have secure immigration status through no fault of their own. We need to be supporting them. I'm really pleased the Assembly has backed my motion today to get the Mayor and the Government to do just that.
I'm Caroline Pigeon. I'm delighted to have proposed a motion about the drug PrEP, which prevents people from getting HIV.
This is Oxford Street, like you've never seen it before.
We are here in Barking and Dagenham, particularly to see their innovative projects, ones which are based on participation, community.
We did a fantastic site visit to DPD over in Westminster, where they've set up a small base using fully electric vehicles, the first, I think, of its kind, certainly in the UK.
So this is a simplified version
Back the Plaque is about making sure that more women get the recognition they deserve. Did you know that only 14% of the capital's blue plaques honour women? It was 100 years ago that some women gained the right to vote, so we want you to suggest 100 names of women who deserve the recognition of a blue plaque.
Princess Diana was nominated by the London Assembly, who did some work a couple of years ago in trying to encourage people to nominate more women for blue plaques, which is something that we're very keen on.
Well, it's very significant for Londoners because a couple of years ago we asked Londoners to address the issue of the diversity of the plaques in London. And amongst those suggestions was that we should have a plaque commemorating the vast contribution that Princess Diana made. So I'm absolutely delighted that the Voice of London, the London Assembly, has managed to articulate what Londoners really want.
100
million.
100 million.
That's how many free school meals we've delivered in London.
How's it going, man? Like the apron.
I know from personal experience the difference a free school meal can make. They allow kids to focus at school and reach their full potential while easing financial pressures on parents.
Fancy some beef? Yeah?
For as long as I'm mayor, we'll carry on ensuring every child gets a free school meal in our state primary schools to build a fairer, healthier, better London for everyone. Here are 5 ways we're making London greener in 30 seconds. The beaver is back. We're reintroducing wildlife to London to help nature thrive. We've planted over 500,000 trees since 2016. Our buses are getting greener. We now have over 1,000 zero-emission buses. We're pushing water companies to clean up our rivers and stop sewage from flowing into the Thames. We've helped cut air pollution by nearly a half in central London and are working on making sure every family can breathe cleaner air. Together, we're making London greener for everyone.
An opportunity to celebrate our black tragedy. Those who fail to learn the history.
Celebrating women's achievement is not a day.
While 74 years may have passed, entirely appropriate we should have Armed Forces Day out here outside City Hall under the guns of the Belfast.
Statistically, I'm not supposed to be in education anymore. I'm more likely to be out of education now as a 16-year-old. Why is that?
We have to raise our voices in a chorus united to challenge division and the spread of identity-based hostility.
It's not about how long we live, but how wide we live, said someone to me as I was trying to cry secretly on a bench in Kilburn. They said, "You're just like me, so that means you're different. I pray to the east, you pray to the sky, but in London, we're in the same position. I don't know you, but I'm proud you're my neighbour. So glad you're here with me. You bring different experiences, different wisdoms. You belong here, so be wide here. Being here isn't about origin or intelligence, it's about bringing your elements. Expand yourself with whoever's next to you. Lean on me until we blend skins. Blur yourself so you can focus. The bigger picture includes you. Draw on the human experience so you can illustrate humanity. Humanity starts with hue. Community ends with unity. It's not about how long we live, but how wide we live. About how deeply stitched each of our fibres is. Everybody is London material. Each of us was cut from a different cloth and have become the fabric of a community. no matter where you can trace our threads back to, Timbuktu, Lahore, Hanoi. London means weaving our fibres into stronger fabrics, so our outfit is strong enough to endure the storms and keep us warm. We improve spaces by taking them up. The gift is meant to be opened.
I'm so glad that today my colleagues agreed that we will be calling for a 40 decibel limit on tube noise across London.
And I'm delighted today that the Assembly is supporting Battersea Cats and Dogs in their quest to put an end to animal cruelty.
That there are over 130,000 children and young people who live in London who do not have secure immigration status through no fault of their own. We need to be supporting them. I'm really pleased the Assembly has backed my motion today to get the Mayor and the Government to do just that.
I'm Caroline Pidgeon. I'm delighted to have proposed a motion about the drug PrEP, which prevents people from getting HIV.
This is Oxford Street, like you've never seen it before.
We are here in Barking and Dagenham, particularly to see their innovative projects, ones which are based on participation of community.
We did a fantastic site visit to DPD over in Westminster, where they've set up a small base using fully electric vehicles, the first, I think, of its kind, certainly in the UK.
So this is a simplified version
Back the Plaque is about making sure that more women get the recognition they deserve.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to People's Question Time. Before we start, please take a moment to look around and note the fire exit nearest to you. In the event of an emergency, please follow instructions given by staff. Please switch your electronic devices to silent mode now, and if you wish to tweet about tonight's event, it's #PQT. This evening we have 6 topic areas to discuss, and we'll spend up to 18 minutes on each. This is how it works. For each topic, the chair will take 3 questions at a time. The first 2 questions will be taken from those of you here in the audience with your hands raised. The third question will be taken from the live chat forum of our online registered audience participating via the live stream. For each topic, the most liked questions, as voted for by the online registered audience, will be asked. The Chair will then direct these 3 questions from each topic to the Mayor and then a London Assembly member. We have no advance notice of the questions. To make sure we get through as many questions as possible and cover a range of issues, duplicated questions will not be asked. Do keep your questions short and on topic and refrain from abusive or defamatory remarks, as these will not be posted. For those of you here in the audience, if you're able to stand to ask your question, please do this, as it will make it easier for those on stage and the cameras to see you. Please wait for a member of staff with a microphone to reach you before you start speaking. Please keep your questions short so we can get to as many of you as possible, and please ask questions rather than make speeches. To ensure we create a safe environment for everyone here tonight, we will not tolerate abusive or intimidating behaviour. Please also refrain from heckling to ensure that questions can be asked and answered without disruption. Now, with so many of you here in person and online, we won't have the time for everybody to ask a question. So if you don't get yours asked tonight, please do email mayor@london.gov.uk. Please also remember to fill in the feedback form online. There are QR codes around the room for you to scan your device, or go onto our dedicated webpage, london.gov.uk/PQT. And we'll finish tonight at 9 p.m. sharp. And now, everyone, without any further ado, please welcome your chair for this evening, ITV News broadcaster and Loose Women host, Charlene White.
Oh, hello. Good evening, everyone. It's great to be in my hometown of South East London. Yes, I am biased, but I'm the blue bias, so there we go. As the voice of God just said, I am Charlene White, and I want to give a huge welcome to those of you who are here in person, but to also those of you who are joining us online for tonight's People's Question Time. Thank you so much for venturing out of your homes on what is quite a chilly night in London tonight. I'm assured the sun will make an appearance at some point in the next week or so. We'll shortly be joined by the Mayor of London, Sir Sadiq Khan, and representatives of the London Assembly, of course. The Mayor and the London Assembly work to improve life for Londoners, for you, and make London a better place for all. So tonight is your chance to put your questions to the Mayor and the Assembly members, who will be sat right here on this panel, and find out what they are doing for the capital and its people. So, first to the stage, please give a round of applause for your Assembly members. Keep it going. Incredible. And please welcome the Mayor of London, Sir Sadiq Khan. Lively audience tonight. That's what we like to hear. It always makes for a fun evening when we've got a bit of a lively audience in front of us. Now, it is such a pleasure to be in South East London today. We have with us the Chair of the London Assembly, Lord Duval of Woolwich. Do you want to give a little bit of a wave? A bit of a wave. There we go. Who is the London Assembly member for this area, representing Greenwich and Lewisham, obviously. So tonight, we will be taking questions on topics in the following order. We have transport, policing, air quality and the environment, housing and planning, London's economy. And if we have any time at the end to cover anything else that hasn't already been covered, we will use that time for any other subjects. So for each topic, we will begin with 2 live questions from you in front of me, our live audience here. And that will be followed by a question from our audience who is watching online. If we have, again, a time for any additional questions, we will continue in the same way to get through as many as possible. The key here, though, is keep your questions short. I'll be asking the Mayor and the Assembly members to keep their answers short and to the point. And this is not our first rodeo. We're spending time together. So if they end up rambling and not getting to the point, I will try and keep them to the point to keep it short. Because the key is to get through as many questions as possible. That is why we're here. Now, please do listen to both the questions and the answers with respect. Please do not heckle or disrupt the meeting. If this does happen and you do not stop after you have been warned, I will have to ask you to leave the event. So to ask a question, all you've got to do is raise your hand and I will select people randomly from inside the room. We've got some wonderful helpers here in the room who are in those beautiful purple vests. If you'd like to raise your pallets up in the air, and then people know exactly where you are, and I will direct them to you if and when you would like to ask a question. For those of us who are joining us online, the chat function is for questions only. Comments will not be published. The most popular upvoted question online will be put to this panel if that question hasn't already been asked. So submit your questions in the correct topic category. The questions submitted will be published a few minutes before the start of the relevant topic. So don't forget to like the ones that you want answered. You can start liking questions for the transport section now, as that is a section that we are going to start off with. The Mayor and the London Assembly members will be aware of the rules around use of resources which apply to this event, and of the code of conduct which does apply to them, and are asked to be mindful of those requirements. So to kick things off, it is my pleasure to welcome the Chair of the London Assembly, Assembly Member Lord Duval of Woolwich, OBE, for the opening address.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to People's Question Time. It's a pleasure to be with you here in Greenwich, a community close to my heart and my home. 47 years ago, I worked just round the corner in a youth centre called Peyton Place, of all things. Sadly, it closed many years ago. Look, first and foremost, I think it's important that we address this issue, and it may well be a question later on. We are all outraged, everyone on this platform, including the Mayor, outraged and deeply sorry about what took place in Golders Green in the early hours of Monday morning. Every elected representative will want to speak out and condemn this appalling act. We stand firmly against hate in all its forms, whether based on religion, race, gender, or any other characteristics. And we stand with the local community at this difficult time. It's incumbent on all politicians to ensure that in making our arguments, that we do not inflame division and embolden those who wish to spread hate in our communities. People's Question Time is one of the ways we ensure London's voices are heard, and for those here in this room and for those joining online, this is an opportunity to ask questions directly and raise concerns openly and hear from those that serve you. Your voices and experience and ideas sit at the heart of this event. The Assembly's role is to be the voice of Londoners, scrutinising decisions, raising matters of importance, and holding the Mayor and his advisers to account. But here in London, we can't be immune from the issues affecting the world today. Our sister city in Kyiv continues to suffer under the Russian onslaught, which threatens its democracy and its future. In the Middle East, we're seeing countries facing destabilisation and tragic loss of life, with repercussions that will be felt across the UK, not just here in London, and also in global economies. We hope a lasting solution is found soon. Since our last People's Question Time in September, we remain committed to scrutinising the Mayor's budget, raising important issues that matter to Londoners and listening through our scrutiny engagement work. And if I can just outline some of those issues we've dealt with. In response to the current outbreak in Enfield, the Health Committee recently held an urgent meeting to examine the impacts and mitigations in terms of the measles epidemic. Equally, we need to encourage re-immunisation in all our boroughs. The Transport Committee has raised concerns over high levels of violence towards transport workers. The Economy and Culture Skills Committee has published a report noting the high cost of living for families and the difficulties of bringing up children in London. The Planning and Regeneration Committee recommended a number of proposals to be included in the next Mayor's London plan, specifically including housing design that Londoners actually want. The Housing Committee is also looking at how the new rules under the Renters' Right Act will affect Londoners. The Police and Crime Committee published its report on the Met's neighbourhood policing work, and along with the Environment Committee, held a recent stakeholders forum to find out what London's environmental priorities should be. Last Saturday, we held a half-day conference for young Londoners at City Hall. This was co-designed with our London Youth Assembly and focused on youth engagement, employment, democracy and youth participation, as along with mental health issues. We're also holding our second London Youth Achievement Awards. So if you know someone out there, a young person who's deserving of an award, please look at our website. This is to recognise and celebrate the impact of young people across London. We're incredibly proud of our Youth Assembly and of our young Londoners. You can keep up to date with our work by following our social media channels and watching our meetings at City Hall, online or on our website or on our YouTube channel. A final reminder, in these difficult times, we must find ways to support those who need help. Don't turn towards division and hate. We must seek consensus so that we can face the challenges ahead together. Thank you.
A huge thank you to Assembly Member Lord Duval. OK, now I invite the Mayor of London, Sir Sadiq Khan, to give his opening address.
Well, look, good evening, everyone. It's great to be back here in Greenwich. Look, I've spent this afternoon with Hatzola, brilliant, inspirational Jewish volunteers and staff who serve all our communities. The attack on Hatzola on Sunday night was an attack on all of us. Now, there are one of the questions I asked the volunteers when I met them this afternoon is what more we can do to support you, and I'll be acting on the various things they asked us to do from City Hall. The one thing I think we can do tonight, which they talked about, was their sense of loneliness and isolation and their ask for allyship. I think what we can do tonight is start in this meeting with a massive round of applause to show our love for the Jewish community. This was an attack on London, and all Londoners stand with our Jewish friends, neighbours and colleagues. I just want to rush through my opening speech by talking about some of the things we've achieved from City Hall to improve the lives of Londoners. We've made transport around our city faster, cleaner and easier with the Hopper bus fare, the Night Tube, the Superloop, the Elizabeth line, extensions to the Northern Line and London Overground, more electric buses and a 5-fold increase in protected cycleways. We've cut toxic air pollution, so for the first time in our history, It's within legal limits thanks to the ULEZ, and we've massively increased our budget to support those sleeping rough, helping 20,000 people off our streets. To combat crime, an issue I know is a key priority for Londoners, we focus relentlessly on prevention and enforcement. We've more than doubled the amount of money we put into the police from City Hall and made record investments to rebuild youth services across London from the ground up. And this is including providing mentors to young people and funding more than 500,000 positive opportunities for our young people. As a result, London's homicide rate is now at a record low. 2025 saw the fewest teenage homicides in more than 3 decades. According to the independent ONS, Londoners are now less likely to be victims of violent crime than anywhere else in England and Wales. Of course, there's still much more to do, especially when it comes to tackling crimes like mobile phone thefts, shoplifting and bike thefts. But London is one of the safest global cities thanks to the action we've taken. And by the way, I'll continue to take on populist politicians and pundits who suggest otherwise, those who talk London down because it suits their own unpatriotic political agenda. Another one of my top priorities is doing everything I can to help Londoners with the cost of living. Since I became mayor, we've got council house building to levels not seen since the 1970s. Repeatedly called on central government to introduce rent controls, delivered multiple fares freezes, and for the first time in the history of our city, provided universal, nutritious, free school meals to all our state primary schools, saving parents up to £500 per child per year. I'm proud of the steps we've taken to ease some of the financial pressures on Londoners, but I'm acutely aware that London is extremely expensive and that Londoners are too often priced out. As someone who grew up on a council estate, this breaks my heart. And so I'll continue working night and day to do what I can to make London more affordable. I'm deeply concerned, however, that as well as causing unnecessary death and immense suffering, the reckless war launched against Iran will turn a cost of living crisis into a cost of living catastrophe for Londoners. That's why I'll be lobbying the government to make sure they provide adequate support to shield our communities from this economic shock. It's also another reason why I believe our country should rejoin the EU single market and customs union. Because we desperately need the economic boost this will bring to offset some of the damage caused by soaring global energy prices and trade tariffs. Let me just end by saying this. London should be a place for everyone, rich or poor, white, black, brown or Asian, Christian, Jewish, Sikh, Hindu or Muslim, member of an organised religion or not. And so as well as delivering the policies and programmes help to make London a fairer, safer, greener and more prosperous place, I'll also continue to stand up unapologetically for our values, as these are vital to creating a more affordable and inclusive city that everyone can confidently call home. Thank you.
Okay, I hope you're all in a question asking mood, because we are going to kick things off. We are actually going to start with transport. And as I said, I'm going to take these questions in threes. 2 from the audience here and the 3rd from the online audience. And then the Mayor will answer the question first, and then we'll move on to the other members of the London Assembly who would like to answer the question. So we have a gentleman in the white shirt by paddle number 3. If you could ask your question, please.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, once again, this great city has the lingering threat of tube strikes hanging over us. Londoners are sick to death of being used as pawns by greedy transport unions seeking to extract as much as possible from the taxpayer. We pay some of the highest transport fares in the world and have to suffer from a constant merry-go-round of strikes and threats of strikes.
We do have to get to the question.
Yep.
Thank you.
To follow four-day working weeks and bumper pay. When will you stand up for Londoners and put a stop to this nonsense once and for all, in line with your repeated broken manifesto commitments to be a zero strikes mayor? Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll take another question from the audience. No speeches. We want questions. If we can have the lady just by paddle number 1 in the burgundy jacket. Thank you very much.
Good evening. Why does the Mayor continue to promote low-traffic neighbourhood schemes that push traffic to boundary areas, are unpopular and divide residents, and have been overturned in 2 court cases? Thank you.
Okay, we haven't had any from the online audience just yet, so I'll take another one from the audience just out here. Paddle number 6, if you could come forward. There's a lady just here, long brown hair and glasses.
Thank you. I'm a councillor in West Thamesmead, and I hear that you want to build a lot of houses in our area, which is great, but my residents feel as if they're quite cut off from the local area, especially London. So I was wondering, what are you doing to fix this, and is the DLR extension actually really going to happen?
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, Mr. Mayor, we have tube strikes. When are you going to stand up for London against what the gentleman there called greedy unions? London low traffic neighbourhoods, why do they continue? And the third question about DLR extension in Thamesmead.
Well, thank you for all. In relation to industrial action and strikes, look, transport workers aren't the only people that go on strikes. You know, we've had the NHS workers going on strike, teachers going on strikes, and strikes ultimately is a sign of failure because talks have broken down. The way to resolve these things is amicably around the table. And the great news is because the trade union and TfL began talking last week, the strikes planned for this week have been averted. And I'd encourage the trade union and TfL to carry on talking to resolve these differences. And by the way, sir, the reason why we have very expensive transport fares in London is because in 2015, the previous government and mayor abolished the operating grant for TfL. We're the only transport authority in the Western world not to receive a government grant, yet I still managed to freeze bus fares and tube fares for a number of years. But the short point is, we're going to carry on talking to the trade unions to resolve this, and I'm keeping my fingers crossed that we'll resolve this amicably. Final point about transport workers. These are the very same people that kept transport running, risking their lives during the pandemic. Many of these workers lost their lives. So before you start criticising them, just say thank you as well. And in relation to the second really important question about low traffic neighbourhoods, so it's councils that know their communities best that decide whether there should be a low traffic neighbourhood or not. But I make this point politely and gently. Every year across our city, roughly speaking, 3,100 Londoners are either killed or seriously injured as a consequence of LTNs, 20 miles per hour, and other policies we've introduced. Last year, we had the fewest number of deaths and serious injuries on our roads since records began. The number of children being killed on our roads is down by 75%. And I'd encourage anybody who thinks that these policies don't improve people's lives to spend some time with a bereaved mum who's lost a daughter or somebody who's become amputated because of the dangers on our roads. I'm all in favour of councils working with their residents to make our roads safer. On the third question in relation to housing, thank you for the hard work you do as a councillor, whichever party you represent. Public service is very important, but it's also very important you stand up for your residents. I think the single biggest issue facing our city is housing. We have a housing crisis and we need to build more housing that Londoners can genuinely afford to live in. But for housing to be built in a city like London, we need transport infrastructure for people to get to and from their homes. So the great news is despite me lobbying since 2017 for the DLR to be extended to Thamesmead and the previous government saying no, this government has green-lighted the DLR to be extended to Thamesmead. And that will revolutionise housing in Thamesmead. And we also had from this government an announcement of a new town in Thamesmead as well. Tens of thousands of homes, tens of thousands of jobs, great public transport going to Thamesmead. But the good news is you don't have to wait for the DLR to see improvements in public transport, because the Superloop 11 has already begun going from North Greenwich to Thamesmead, and the numbers using that are through the roof. So we've made the case for public transport investment, but also housing investment, so your residents will benefit from this twin good news, one from the government, one from City Hall. DLR's come in, council houses is coming, jobs are coming.
Thank you. Assembly Member Turrell.
Thank you. Thank you for those questions. I'll start with the union ones. What's happened is that striking is becoming a first port of call for unions like the RMT because of the weak leadership of this mayor and the fact that he caves into them so often that they're now treating it as a first port of call rather than letting the negotiations take their place. And we can't continue to have Londoners and their commute to work being held to ransom like this. On LTNs, it's a case of Transport for London being on Transmit all the time and wanting to put their will across. Because what the mayor didn't say in his response is how he's made LTNs one of the priorities for councils when they're bidding for the road safety money. The road safety money that he's cut by 48% over the 10 years he's been mayor. Whereas councils like Bromley have had the biggest drop in people killed and seriously injured on their roads in all of Greater London. They've done it without a single 20-mile-per-hour zone or blanket 20-mile-per-hour. They've done it without LTNs. But the mayor is stuck on Transmit, not on listening. He's trying to lock councils like Bromley out of road safety funding, not working constructively with them like he claims. And on the DLR coming to Belvedere, I'm surprised a councillor for West Belvedere didn't know the DLR was coming to Thamesmead. That's quite a thing to say at a public meeting. But I'm so surprised that it's... but I'm upset that I'm pleased that the DLR is coming to Thamesmead, but we needed to be much more ambitious. And we need to bring it all the way down to Belvedere so it can connect in with National Rail Services to get that full benefit on jobs, opportunity and housing. So I would really like to see it go further, not just terminate at Thamesmead.
Okay, thank you very much. Assembly Member Caroline Russell.
Thank you very much. So first of all, on the question of strikes, obviously for any worker who is in dispute with their employer, then the right to be able to withdraw your labour is an absolute, it's a right that we all have and that we should all hold very dear. It is really important that people are able to strike, and I fully support people's ability to do that. I'm very glad to hear that the strike has been called off, so actually we've all been able to travel here today by public transport. In terms of the LTN question, we live in a city that is incredibly congested, where there are so many cars on the road, and it's really frustrating. People driving their kids to school or driving anywhere are kind of held up behind loads and loads of other cars and other vehicles, and it is incredibly frustrating. And the thing is, if every single one of us wanted to get around in a car, then the roads would be absolute gridlock. And so the reason that Transport for London very sensibly is bringing in all sorts of measures to reduce traffic, to reduce the impact of traffic, and to enable people to get around by public transport, by bus, and the buses hopefully to move a bit better if there's a bit less traffic on the road. It's about making our city work for everyone, making sure that the people who drive for work are able to get around and make the journeys they need to make. But it's also based on what the mayor was talking about the numbers of people who are being killed and seriously injured on our roads. And TfL is quite rightly really looking at how can we reduce the shocking number of people who are very seriously injured every year and the 100 or so people who are killed every year. That's 100 bereaved families, work colleagues and everything else. So it is really, really important that measures like low traffic neighbourhoods are brought in, because they quite cheaply, create wide areas where there's less traffic and where it is safer for people, whether they're walking with a white cane, using a wheelchair, kind of scooting on a scooter, little child going to school, where people can cross the road safely, where they know there's not going to be a lot of through traffic thundering through, trying to escape from the congestion. So fully support the low traffic neighbourhoods. And in terms of the public transport piece, it is absolutely essential that where new homes are being built, that there is really good public transport, because then the people that move in there will not feel forced to own a car and will not worsen the congestion that we already have on our roads.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. I'd also like to remind our Assembly members to keep their answers short so we can get through as many of you as possible. Everybody wants to hear a range of answers this evening. Can we now go to Assembly Member Emma Best?
Thanks, Charlotte. Thanks, Charlene. Good evening. And I will be brief. I will only talk to the LTN point. And we really need an honest conversation across London about LTNs. Unfortunately, TfL is stopping this happening. They literally squashed and hid research that showed LTNs made no difference to car usage. There is a reason why some of the most high-profile air campaigners in London are not in support of LTNs. We need to have an honest conversation about the damage that this is doing. And the claim that this is reducing deaths is just not true. Since 2023, deaths by the road in London have gone up by 16%. We cannot continue to use bogus figures to justify a scheme that isn't working. And yes, it is about what areas want. And if that works for a community, they should. But the blanket application of LTNs has not worked for London. And that's why before the mayor was in power, London wasn't even in the top 10 for slowest cities in the world. And now it is #1, the slowest, most congested. And that is why people are in more danger. There's more cars moving slowly, more traffic, you can't see what's coming, and more people are in danger. There are only 3 things that are guaranteed in life: death, taxes, and to the Mayor of London, every journey does not matter.
Okay, can we move on to Assembly Member Ellie Baker, who's the Chair of the Assembly's Transport Committee?
Thank you. So I'll just add a couple of things on a couple of the issues that have been raised. Firstly, on the issues of the industrial disputes that have been going on, I think what we haven't talked about is the reason these were about and what the issues in play were, which were working hours and fatigue and rosters for the people working on our transport network. And it's really important that those people are safe because they're carrying loads of us around on daily journeys. So it's right that those workers are able to discuss their terms and conditions and come to agreement with their employer, because that's what happened, because too many of us don't have that control and are working far too long hours. So I think it's really important to keep that in perspective, because it's better for Londoners that we have a safe transport network. And just secondly, on the DLR extension, it's fantastic how hard the Mayor and TfL, because I've seen it, how hard they've worked to bring this extension to Thamesmead, and I look forward to it being in place. But it is also really important that we have good local transport so that we're building new communities. They link into the communities around them. So I'm looking forward to seeing new local bus routes, the Superloop connecting people together, and those cheaper forms of transport, the Mayor keeping fares down year after year, so that actually we can both see those transport upgrades, but also have good local transport that gets us around every day.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we're going to move on to Assembly Member Alessandra Giorgio.
Thank you very much, Charlene. And going back to the LTN question, because this is wrapped up on Sadiq Khan's war on the motorist. It is part of an entire package of this nonsense 15-minute cities that we get from other woke places in this country. LTNs do nothing but create private estates for millionaires. In addition to that, we now have the expanded 20-mile-per-hour boroughs. ULEZ, more cycle lanes that nobody uses, the Blackwall Tunnel charges, the Silvertown Tunnel charges, which I've got to pay for because that's the way I came today, so remind me, Mr. Mayor. And then what we've seen is now the Mayor wants to ban family cars off the roads. Going back to your question, Madam, this is all the Mayor's agenda to commit war on the motorists of London, and don't pretend it's anything else.
We got awoken very quickly there, very quickly in at the start. Right, we have one question coming in online. I'd like the Mayor to answer it very quickly, if that's okay. This is from Ali, who is in Lewisham, and says, I want to walk and cycle more. What are you doing to encourage sustainable, active travel in my area?
Great question. Just to underscore Caroline Russell's point, which is we're a city now approaching 10 million. And if everyone drives around our city in a car, we will be in gridlock, aside from issues around road safety, issues around congestion, issues around pollution. So we need to encourage people where it's possible to walk and cycle and use public transport. And one of the ways we're doing that is by making people feel safe for cycling, but be safe for cycling. So since I've been mayor, we've increased the amount of safe cycleways fivefold. And that's to encourage you to be safe when you're cycling. We've also widened pavements, and as has been said, frozen bus fares on 7 separate years, which is really important, frozen tube fares for 5 years. So we're encouraging people to use public transport where possible, but I recognise in outer London it's a bigger issue than it is in central and inner London because there are fewer alternatives to the car. And that's why we've massively increased bus capacity in outer London, including the Superloop. The DLR extensions come in, we've had the London Overground extension, the Elizabeth line, because we're going to make it attractive if people are going to leave their cars, but also recognising the benefits of active travel. And Greenwich will see that with the DLR extension. They're already seeing it with Superloop and more buses. We're going to see it more over the course of the next few years.
Okay, thank you very much. Right, we're out of time with transport. We're going to move now on to policing. Look, if we didn't get to your question, please do visit the People's Question Time page on the london.gov website, which does tell you how you can submit one in writing. So we go back to the beginning. It's 2 questions from the audience and 1 question from those who are watching online. If we can go number 6, panel number 6, your gentleman in the white shirt and glasses, please.
Hello there. Thank you for letting me ask a question. I'm a volunteer for in Shoots Hill for Neighbour Watch, chair of my local Safer Neighbour panel. I also sit on a stop and search scrutiny panel. To what extent do you feel that stop and search is an important tool for our Met Police? Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to this side of the room. Paddle number, I can't see your number there. Paddle number 2, the gentleman is there. Thank you.
Yeah, how much is the budget going to increase for when you pedestrianise Oxford Street for the police to make sure at night Oxford Street does become a cesspool of drug dealers, prostitution, and rough sleeping, and just basically Sodom and Gomorrah until sunrise? I mean, have you thought about how terrible it's going to be when you pedestrianise Oxford Street, apart from the pollution damage and the extra congestion that you're going to cause? What if there's emergency works on Wigmore Street or Brook Street? What's the contingency plan for that?
Okay,
you have none. You should not pedestrianise Oxford Street. It's going to cause more mess. You charge congestion and you're creating more congestion by charging more congestion.
You've asked your question. You have asked your question. It's more about, this is about asking questions, not about speeches. I understand that you are passionate, but I did say at the start, it's about asking questions, not about state. I am leading this, so please listen. Thank you very much. We have a question from online, and that comes from Miguel, who has said, I've heard that crime in London is going down. Is that really true? What do you think is making the difference? So to surmise, Mr. Mayor, we have stop and search. Do you really think it's an important tool? We have a question about policing on Oxford Street when it is pedestrianised, and whether or not crime in London is really going down.
Well, firstly, can I begin by thanking the questioner who volunteers and gives so much of his time to provide the support to the police, to be the eyes and ears of the police in terms of neighbourhood watch, but also to help the checks and balances we need in a democracy. In a democracy, how the police are policed is very important, particularly when we police by consent. Why is that important for all of us? Because unless we trust the police, we're not going to come forward and report a crime. We're not going to come forward as a witness to crime. We're not going to come forward to be a police officer. And we've got to accept, for a number of years, going back decades, there have been challenges with the police, which was best exposed in the report from Dame Louise Casey, who found the police service to be institutionally racist, institutionally misogynistic, and institutionally homophobic. Stop and search has been used in the past disproportionately, but stop and search is an invaluable tool when used properly for the police to take offensive weapons off our streets, dangerous drugs off our street, and to arrest bad people. And what this commissioner has done since he took over is try and reform the police service so it has more trust, which leads to less crime by having higher standards. I'm not saying it's mission accomplished, but for example, the publication of a stop and search charter, building on the work done by two of my deputy mayors in 2020 around a report around trust and accountability, I think is a really good example of progress. And it's really important to change the relationship, though, between particularly minority communities and the police. And I think this commissioner understands that and is working incredibly hard to change that. And people like you are integral to that as the checks and balances. So thank you again for the work you do. The second question from the chap over there, I think he's against us pedestrianising Oxford Street. But he raises a serious point about crime. If done badly, pedestrianising the street can lead to higher antisocial behaviour. If done badly, it could be attractive to a terrorist to cause us harm. And that's why from an early stage, we're not just learning the lessons from other places around the world that have pedestrianised the streets in Copenhagen, in New York, in Barcelona and elsewhere. The police are involved from the outset at designing the street so it's as safe as possible. Safe from death and serious injuries by road traffic collisions, but also safe from crime as well. The good news, sir, is all the evidence from those streets pedestrianised across the globe, when done properly, is it leads to less crime, less antisocial behaviour, higher footfall, more people spending, and then being attractive to not just residents, not just Londoners, but visitors as well. And I'm confident we'll be successful pedestrianising Oxford Street, but I understand the concerns you have, sir, and we'll try and address them over the course of the next few months. And so when it opens, you'll be reassured by the steps taken. But I understand your concerns, sir, in relation to both ASB and other forms of crime. And that's why the police are in the cockpit when it comes to designing the street going forward. Charlene, Miguel's question online is a really important question, which is born out from what I alluded to. There are some people, for political partisan reasons, talking London down. Most of them don't live in London. Most of them not in our country for their own reasons, which I can go into later on if we need to. What is the evidence objectively? The evidence objectively is since records began last year with the fewest homicides in London. The evidence is we've had the fewest teenage homicides in more than 3 decades. The evidence is the numbers of young people going to A&E with a knife injury is down by 44% since 2019, the year I set up the Violence Reduction Unit. The evidence is burglaries are down since I first became mayor. But the evidence also is high volume crimes have been going up for the last few years. Mobile phone thefts have been going up. Bike thefts have been going up. Thefts from shops has been going up. So for the last year, we've prioritised neighbourhood policing to take action. The good news, 10,000 fewer mobile phones stolen last year. The good news, shop thefts are starting to make progress going down by giving shopkeepers the confidence the police will respond. And the good news is we've made progress in relation to having more police officers in those parts of London where there are concerns around crime. But it is really important to celebrate progress, to rebut those myths, but accept there are challenges which we're going to address over the course of the next few months.
Okay, thank you very much. Assembly Member Susan Hall.
Thank you, Charlene. Evening, everybody. Apologies for being late. The roads are gridlocked, I can confirm that. Absolutely shocking. And some of us have to use a car if we're coming from virtually Hertfordshire. Anyway, stop and search the gentleman over there. It is absolutely vital. We have to get knives off the street. And if young people think I'd better not take them out because I might be stopped and searched, then that's a good thing. So we had a meeting this morning and we were talking about it for a very long time. There's lots of nuances around it, but I'm absolute supporter of it. And unfortunately, under this mayor, it's gone down drastically. Oxford Street, I agree with the gentleman there. I don't think it should be pedestrianised. Locals don't want it, but of course they weren't asked properly about it. I am concerned about crime. The minute you get an area where you haven't got traffic going through at night time, it is a worry there. And locals have to walk across the street very often or down the street to get to their homes. And at night, and you're a resident, well, there you go. If they're having to walk across it late at night, they will feel unsafe, I would suggest. Also, is that where the homeless will then come in with the tents? And that wouldn't be a very good look. There's so many things around Oxford Street. To the lady that said, is crime in London going down? Well, this mayor cherry picks the figures he gives you. All the time, he'll tell you what is going up, so I feel I should level it out a bit. Violence against a person is up 6.3%. Drug offences are up 22.9%. Sexual offences are up by 6.1%. Possessions of weapon offences are up by 23.7%. And the elephant in the room is the grooming gangs. Now, this mayor told me he didn't know what I was talking about when I asked him about the grooming gangs. And I'm sure some of you have read, or most of you will have read from the Express, seen the television. It's rife. And yet this mayor didn't even like to say that. He didn't know what I was talking about. I think over the next few months we will see just how bad the situation is. It's undercover at the moment. Well, some of us know damn well it's going on. There is crime in this city, and it's no good saying it's political to talk London down. I'm not talking London down. I think London's the best place in the world. But we do have problems. Many of them come from, in my view, an incompetent mayor. Thank you,
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for all of your, when you were quoting numbers and percentages, for example. When we are talking about something such as grooming gangs, though, that also needs to come with facts, figures and data. Otherwise, it will just be seen as hearsay. It's very important. No. My point being, Assemblymember Susan Hall, when we're talking about crime and figures and serious crimes such as grooming gangs, I'm not saying it's something that shouldn't be raised, but things like that should also come with data and facts.
And we need to be talking about it, Charlie.
No, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't be talking about it.
The police are re-looking at thousands of cases.
But no, then you give all I was asking was for a number.
9,000.
That's all I was asking for was for a number.
9,000 cases are being looked at again. So please don't tell me it's not out there, because I have spoken to the victims. And I'm sorry, Charlene, if you had, you wouldn't have said that. It is absolutely heartbreaking.
I have. But my point is that when we're talking about data and facts, it's very important, especially when it comes to crime, that we do include figures with that as well. Now, Assemblymember Marina Ahmad.
Thank you, Charlene. So Stop and Search is actually an incredibly important tool. The Mayor's Office for Police and Crime has just published a very innovative piece of research into how this takes place and how officers react, and the experience of members of the public when they are stopped and searched. Very sadly, the research shows that black young men are 48 times more likely than their white counterparts to be stopped and searched. And that is an issue that needs to be addressed. Stop and search is an effective tool, but it has to be used proportionately and it has to be used effectively in the best and most respectful way possible. Going on to the issue of child sexual exploitation, what has happened in other areas of the country, in places like Rotherham, are absolutely appalling and horrific. What the evidence that we are told in London by the Met Police, what the Met tell us that the child sexual exploitation and the child exploitation issues in London are different. And whilst I absolutely commend members for their concern and interest in the issue, what I would like is for people to understand that there are victims at the heart of those figures and statistics. And what I do not want to see is the politicisation of their pain and their experience, because that is completely wrong. What you need to understand, and what people do need to understand, is that this is almost grooming young people again in terms of the pain and the experiences that they have had. And finally, just this issue of crime statistics in London and what is happening in London. I am, as a proud Londoner, London is the best and greatest city in the world. And I am tired of people continually doing London down. We've heard the statistics, the good news of homicide rates. Any homicide is one too many, but they are moving in the right direction. The lowest number that have been recorded this century. The lowest number of we've got every borough in London has had in the last year the lowest number of violences down in every borough in London. For phone thefts, 10,000 less in the last year. These are good statistics. They are things to be working on. They are work in progress. But I am tired of people doing London down. London is the greatest city in the world. Stop doing London down.
Okay, thank you. Assembly Member Zoe Garbutt.
Thank you and good evening. I'm Zoe Garbutt. I'm one of the Green London-wide Assembly members. I'm going to pick up some of the points on stop and search. So I find it really difficult hearing that it's a vital tool when we do know these shocking statistics of the way it's used disproportionately against our black communities, particularly in affluent areas. So that data found that it's 48% more likely if you're in an area that's got over £1 million properties in affluent areas. It's similar to the Mayor's Drug Commission last year, which found that black communities are more likely to, 3 times more likely to be stopped and searched. And I just think it's time and time again, we get this disproportionality that's within the setting of the Met being institutionally racist. And we know that they also use other tools like live facial recognition in areas with higher black populations. So I'm really concerned about the commitment to a tool that we know that causes harm disproportionately to our black communities. And I think this is where the conversation goes more broadly about how we address crime in London. I want to see investment in youth services, in our libraries, in our public services. I want to tackle poverty at its core by making sure people have work that pays and addressing homelessness, which I know we're going to come on to later, in housing. So I think the way that we address the crime as a question from online, as well as what's happening in Oxford Street, is to create an environment that people can thrive in. So it's designed in a way that people feel safe, with good lighting and benches, and it's really activated with a really great nighttime economy, like a nighttime market. And then also that people are supported and are getting the support they need through drug treatment as well as through youth services. So yeah, I think we need to look at the tools the Met are using and how they're using it, and not just do blind commitment to a tool that is disproportionately causing harm to black communities.
Okay, thank you very much. We have a couple of minutes left, so I'm going to do another question from online, which the Mayor will be able to answer. What are you doing to support women who are affected by violence? I think it's so important that they get connected to the right services. That's from Maya in Hackney. Thank you so much for your question.
Thank you for your question. It's a really important question. The first thing we've got to do is invest. And so I'm really proud that City Hall, since I've been Mayor, has invested. It may seem like a number, but it's a big number, £270 million to support the victims of violence against women and girls and the survivors. And one of the ways we do that, we spend the money, is by investing in housing. If you're the victim of domestic abuse, domestic violence, often you're having to flee the home for reasons we can understand, and you're sometimes having to go to a B&B and you can't pay for that. And so we are supporting expert groups that work with victims and survivors to give these survivors a safe refuge. We also make sure we have independent advisors to support them. If you've been the victim of sexual violence, domestic abuse, we have independent advisors to support you. At the same time, we've got to tackle the perpetrators. We can't just focus on the victims and survivors. We've got to tackle the behaviour of the perpetrators. And so we've got units set up in the police service that target stalkers. We're invested in GPS tagging. If you're somebody who's been released from prison
on a domestic abuse, domestic violence conviction, you're tagged. So if you get anywhere near the victim or survivor, we'll go after you. And so we are doing this. This is the enforcement, but the most important thing, Charlie, we've got to do, that's enforcement, is prevention. We've got to start educating boys how to respect girls. We've got to start educating boys how to treat women. We've got to start educating at a young age. This is a societal problem. And what it leads to ultimately is across the country, every 3 days, a woman is killed at the hands of a man. Every 3 days. And this isn't a woman solution, a girl solution, it's a whole society solution. So yes, we will carry on investing from City Hall with the limited resources we have in enforcement and support. But as a society, I think there's much, much more we're going to do to tackle the misogyny that exists that leads to women imposing curfews so they can't go out at night time. Women choosing clothes to wear, which they think makes them less likely to be a victim of sexual violence, sexual harassment. Girls stopping doing sports in secondary school because of the way they're treated by boys. Addressing the issue of the manosphere. And so it's really important that all of us, whether you're a politician, a parent, a teacher, a youth worker, a journalist, understands we've all got a responsibility to tackle this. And the final point, men need to be allies.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we're out of time with policing, but we're going to move on to air quality and the environment. It's the same way as always. I'll take 2 questions from the audience who are here and 1 question from our online audience who are just there in the white jumper in the second row. Thank you very much.
Renu Kumali from Southwark Council. Mayor, I'm wondering how are you going to address these ULEZ and 20 miles per hour? We have petroleum and diesel cars sitting on the hours on the traffic. Although I'm an electric driver, I have to pay VAT on top of it. So I'm wondering what are the consequences of lung cancer, so forth.
Okay, thank you very much. Another question from the audience. I'll take one from the back there, the gentleman in the blue shirt, that paddle number 3. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Just find my question. Domestic wood burning is now one of the largest sources of particulate pollution in London. What concrete plans do you have to reduce emissions from wood burners and protect air quality for residents across the city?
Okay, thank you very much for that. And a question from online. This past winter, I spent so much on energy bills and some of my friends had to choose between heating and hot water some nights. What are you doing to make homes more energy efficient so bills cost less? That's from Hannah in Lambeth. So we had a question about the 20 mile per hour ULEZ and the consequences for health when it comes to diesel cars. A question about excuse me, domestic wood burning, and that question about making homes more energy efficient. Mr. Mayor.
Correct questions. I'll deal with them in reverse order, if that's okay. So first, in relation to bills, and one of the reasons why in my opening I referred to the consequences of the war in Iran is it'll have an impact in terms of our bills, because we are dependent on fossil fuels, and we import our fossil fuels. And the 2 things to say is one is, the government will, unfortunately, if this is still going on in autumn and winter particularly, may need to support those families who are in desperate need of support. But secondly, what we need to do is make sure our homes lose less heat, are built sensibly. And that's one of the reasons why we've got this scheme set up called the Warmer Homes Initiative that addresses issues like having insulation in your homes, that addresses issues like having double glazing in your homes, that addresses issues like having good ventilation. So in the summer, you're not the victim of rising temperatures, which means you've got to turn on fans. So the new homes, I'm confident, will lead to reduced bills. I'm really worried, though, about those people who've got inefficient homes this winter in particular. And that's one of the reasons in my opening I mentioned the need for the government to support families across our city for that particular reason. The really good question also was about wood burning. One of the things I'm really proud of, I mentioned in my opening, was the progress made in relation to addressing air pollution. Wood burning causes big issues in terms of air pollution. So the emissions from domestic sources are as bad as they've been from road vehicles. We've made progress on road vehicles, we've got powers to do so, despite objections from some. We need to make progress on wood burning. We've got no powers over wood burning, councils do. So we're working with our fantastic councils to utilise the powers they've got in relation to this issue, but also work with great charities in terms of public education. Many people burning wood don't realise the dangers it's causing to them and to others. There are wood burners available that are more efficient. There's material you can burn that is more efficient. So that public education programme is incredibly important for this unknown risk for many families. And the first question in relation to the dangers of air quality by congestion. Look, the air pollution causes children to have stunted lungs forever. At least adults have a whole host of health issues from asthma to dementia to cancer to heart disease. And that's one of the reasons why I'm passionate to address the issue of air pollution. When I first ran to be mayor, experts said it would take 200 years to bring our air within lawful limits. We did it in 9. That's the difference the ULEZ has made. And so I recognise in a thriving democracy, people have different views. And I know the Conservatives opposed every measure I've taken to clean the air in London. Thank goodness I ignored them.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, Assembly Member Hina Bukhari.
I'm Hina Bukhari, the Liberal Democrat group leader in City Hall, and I've been pushing the Mayor on wood-burning stoves since I've been elected in 2021. One of the things I was really concerned about was that the Mayor of London had advertising across TfL for wood-burning stoves, so we've managed to push the Mayor to stop advertising for wood-burning stoves across TfL. But he's right to say that there needs to be more work on public awareness. So that's another thing that we've been pushing the Mayor on. He has a role here on that public awareness message. We have a real problem when it comes to domestic wood burning. It accounts for 20% of PM 2.5 emissions. It is causing £900 million a year in health-related damaging results in the UK. So everyone has a right to breathe clean air. And I'm pleased that there are now pushes from the government to tackle the emissions labelling, but we definitely need to see better public awareness, definitely need to see behaviour change, and the Mayor of London does have a role in this. He can push councils to do better in this as well. There are 15,000 complaints about wood burning made to local authorities in England, and hardly anyone gets prosecuted or fined because of those complaints. So a lot more to do, but let's make sure that the Mayor of London takes some responsibility too.
Okay, thank you. Assembly Member Bassam Mahfouz.
Thank you very much, Charlene, and good evening, everybody. Look, I think the first thing to say is that 2 winters ago, when I was knocking on doors around Ealing, door after door, I was being met with people responding to me on the doorstep, dressed with a hat on their head and a scarf wrapped around them. And that was because they couldn't afford to pay for their heating. Now, thankfully, I haven't had to deal with that this year when I've been knocking on doors. And I'm very proud that we have been able to support, as a Labour government, people with their bills in terms of £150 off their current bills. The cap will go down in April. And the Chancellor has said just this week, in fact today, that she is looking at what additional support would need to be provided given the circumstances and the horrific situation that we've got in the wars in the Middle East at the moment. So that's key in terms of making sure that we continue to do everything that we can to support people in terms of the cost of living, in terms of energy. But look, on ULEZ, politics is about choices and it's about leadership. And as the Mayor has said, he made a choice. Now, that was a tough choice, and I got a lot of people on the doorstep saying that they didn't support that choice. But ultimately, he won with a bigger majority last time around than he ever got before. And that was a resounding yes and support for ULEZ and for the implementation of delivering clean air not only for us in this room, but for our children. Now, I've got 2 children at home, and I'm delighted to say that they'll be the first generation in a very long time who will be able to breathe clean air. But more importantly, where are we going next? The Deputy Mayor and the Mayor are already introducing clean air filters to 200 schools this year, making sure that we are taking that key next step. And as we also need to continue with our tree planting programme as well. And I've already been out to a school in Hillingdon, right next to Heathrow, where it's really important that we plant those trees. Been out with the Deputy Mayors for environment and for communities to make sure that we are supporting those communities, those schools, those children, that next generation, and making sure that they can be the first children ever to clean up and grow up in this city with clean air.
Okay, thank you very much. Assembly Member Emma Beth.
Thank you. Just to come back to ULEZ quickly, and I think the best place to go for evidence on this is from the Mayor and TfL. So if we look at their own evidence on whether ULEZ works, the data comes back to say it's impossible to tell. So even if you look at the 7-year trend before the ULEZ expansion, it showed that air quality was improving and set to come down. Even if there was a short-term impact, by the end of the decade, you would have seen no difference at all given the ULEZ expansion. And like I say, TfL's own year-on report says it is impossible to tell whether ULEZ had an effect on that. So just like the Mayor's dodgy LTN claims, we also know he has had dodgy ULEZ claims, and his old Deputy Mayor for Environment tried to suppress research on that as well. But what we do know for certain happened because of the ULEZ expansion, we know for certain that millions of pounds were spent by emergency services on replacing vehicles, taking away from frontline services. We do know that food banks lost volunteer drivers. We do know that tradespeople struggled to get around and went into debt replacing their vehicles. And we do know that the poorest, most vulnerable Londoners missed out on visits from friends and families and their support networks. And again, you don't have to take my word for that. You can take TfL's own data, the Mayor's own impact assessment that said these were the very people that would feel the worst harm of the ULEZ expansion. And so that is why we will stand up to it, because we want to encourage people with carrots, not sticks, and not on the backs of the poorest Londoners.
Okay, thank you. Assembly Member Leonie Cooper.
Thanks so much, Charlene. Look, we've just had a lot about ULEZ from Assemblymember Best. It's not just ULEZ that has been cleaning up London's air. This has been a mission that the Mayor has taken on. I was with the Mayor in 2016, almost exactly 10 years ago, when he went to Great Ormond Street Children's Hospital to talk about the need for a new Clean Air Act. I was with the Mayor in 2018 when he launched the first low-emission bus zone, and we've moved on from low-emission buses to zero-emission buses. We've also moved on to an entirely different taxi fleet. You know, it's the whole piece. It's not just ULEZ that has been cleaning up London's air. When I was a kid at school, there were 3 children in my class who had asthma inhalers. When I was first elected in 2016, I was going into classes and there would be 27 children with inhalers and 3 without. Something had to be done for the sake of people who were struggling to breathe. My own mother died of COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disorder, so I feel very passionately about this, as you can hear. And I think the Mayor has done exactly the right thing, and a lot of people has thrown a lot of mud and sticks at him, but it's been cleaning up the buses, it's been cleaning up the taxis, it's been changing the cars on our roads. We've got more hybrid and more electric vehicles, and we still need to go further and more, because we do still need to address the issue of particulate matter, and that's where the issue of wood-burning stoves, and that point is a very well-made point. There's a spike. You can actually look at the data for yourselves. The LAQN, the London Air Quality Network, monitors all of the situation with air across London. But the monitoring shows that the spike from wood-burning stoves is on Sunday evenings. Now, that means that, you know, people are cozying up with a nice wood-burning fire on a Sunday night. They're not using wood at home because it's an absolute necessity for them. And I think the point that Assemblymember Bakari made about public awareness, I just don't think that people understand the dangers of wood burning. But to really tackle it, the Mayor needs more powers, Council need more powers, the Environment Agency needs more powers, and I'm really hoping, you know, write to your local MP, write to your councillors, we need to be persuading the government to give those powers over.
Okay,
thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm going to throw in one more question online. This is from Alistair, who's in Islington. He says, you're bringing back white storks to Dagenham, and that's great, but what is your plan to clean the rivers that they will feed from? Mr. Mayor.
Well, Alistair, thanks for your question. So rewilding is really important, I think, because, look, for 400 years, we've de-wilded our city, building a concrete jungle. So the good news is over the last few years, we've brought back a number of creatures to our city that had been extinct. We've brought back bats, we've brought back bees, and we've brought back beavers for the first time in 400 years. The first beaver we called Justin Beaver, and the second beaver we called Sigourney Beaver. But Alice is right, we're bringing the white stork back to Dagenham. But Alice is also right that our rivers are a disgrace. We've got 41 rivers and tributaries in London, not just the River Thames. Not one of them is of adequate standard because of not just the incompetence of Thames Water and the sewage discharge, but years and decades of neglect. So the team at City Hall, under the leadership of the Deputy Mayor, have been working with community groups to come up with a plan. People tell me I couldn't clean up our air, we did it. People are telling us we can't clean up our rivers, I think we can do it. And by cleaning up our rivers, it won't just mean it's possible for us where it's safe to do so to swim, it will lead to better wildlife in those rivers as well. And by the way, Charlene, I think this is an issue of social justice. I think just like those least responsible for air pollution, poorest Londoners were suffering the worst consequence of air pollution. Many Londoners haven't got a garden, haven't got access to green space or blue space. There's not walkways by rivers, and so we're going to not just clean up our rivers, but make it easier and more accessible for all Londoners to access both green space and blue space. Watch this space.
Okay, thank you very much. Assembly Member Turrell, you've got 60 seconds.
Thank you. In brief, a big problem in this is council funding. Councils are responsible for the maintenance of rivers. Over the last 20-odd years, since about the 90s, councils, particularly in London, have had their funding gutted. And that's why we've got to replace this. Last year, Thames Water was fined £122 million. I wrote to the Chancellor to say that we should take that money and give it to our local councils to invest in river improvement schemes. Sadly, she said no.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, you can round of applause because we've finished that section of air quality and the environment. Thank you very much. Right, if we didn't manage to get to your question tonight, please do submit one online and it should be answered in 20 working days. Okay, so we're going to move on to housing and planning now. Let's get a couple of questions from the audience. We've got gentleman pedal number 1. We've got someone in a lovely black jumper with white squiggles on it.
Good evening. My question today is there going to be more affordable homes built for Londoners? Because I feel in the London borough I live, Lewisham, there's plans to knock down the shopping centre and they say they're going to build more affordable homes, but they're not. I don't think they're actually going to be affordable. So my question is there a way for if the Mayor can push London councils to prioritise local people from London boroughs for housing, and if the housing registers amongst London councils can be better regulated?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. We have paddle number 6 behind you there, a lady in a striped jumper, white and brown, I believe.
Thank you. I live in Theatro Tower, a housing block around the corner from here. It's a building of 8 stories and 52 apartments, and it's still covered in ACM cladding. Our building's insurance is £130,000, and this has resulted in the deterioration of our building. We have elderly and disabled people trapped in their homes because we don't have a working lift. What is the GLA doing to alleviate the bottleneck of building safety fund applications and fast-track those of us still living in these unacceptable and unjust conditions?
Okay, thank you very much. And our question online is from Michael in Camden. Thanks very much, Michael. The question is, I see a lot of rough sleepers around London and it breaks my heart. What should we be doing to help them, and what are you doing to get them off the streets? So to summarise those questions, the first one was about affordable homes and prioritising locals, and most specifically Lewisham Shopping Centre being renovated, but the homes there, our gentleman said, are too expensive. A question about those buildings covered in cladding, and what are you doing about Londoners currently living in unsafe homes? And that final question about rough sleepers, Mr. Mayor.
Well, thank you for all three excellent questions, and they're all linked actually, about dignity and about affordability. So the first question from our friend in Lewisham. So look, this is personal to me. I was raised on a council estate, and the difference affordable housing made to my family, the security of tenure, the affordability of being able to pay rents on low incomes. But we stopped building council housing for years. We sold off the ones we had and didn't replenish it. And so for decades, our supplies not met demand. You know, when I first became mayor, I opened up the books. The number of social rented homes in the pipeline was 3. Not 3,000, not 300, 3. So councils didn't have the experience to build the homes. City Hall didn't care. And so we had to change that around to get councils building again. And the good news, we're building more council homes than at any time since the 1970s now. The good news, we've had more homes completed than any time since the 1930s. The really awful news is a combination of the pandemic, high interest rates, construction inflation has meant house building has come to a grind. So I'll be announcing tomorrow with the government a new package of measures to kickstart house building as well. But we need to make sure that we have housing for everyone. Council housing is fine if you can be eligible for that, but many people aren't eligible for council housing. So we're also announcing new key worker housing for the first time ever, but we're also making sure that if there are surplus properties available, we'll buy them. We'll buy them, councils will get the money to buy them from the private sector because of the housing market and give them to people in the housing waiting list who've been waiting for a long time. I don't think we should decide who gets the housing. I think the councils know the communities best. They should decide how it goes. And I'll give you an example of the difference it will make. The third question around rough sleeping. So we've had for the last few decades, rough sleeping going up and up and up and up. The great news is we've managed to take off our streets more than 20,000 rough sleepers, more than 3/4 off for good. The bad news, there are more and more people coming to our streets for a variety of reasons. So we're going to repurpose some of our homes to make it permanent for those who are rough sleeping. So 500 homes will be provided for those who are rough sleeping. We've set up floating hubs to help those who are rough sleepers. We've got 4 already. We're going to open another one. And we're going to make sure that we end rough sleeping by the end of this decade. You might say that's impossible. We've done it before. During the pandemic, we've got every rough sleeper off the streets. Why can't we do it again? In the 90s, around Waterloo was cardboard city. The amount of rough sleepers was shameful, disgraceful. We cleared it up. The government and the mayor working together. I'm confident with the right support from the government, we've got it. With the right support of councils, we can end rough sleeping for good and make sure people like you who work hard have an affordable home and dignity to be able to do so. And that leads me to the third question. The idea of owning a home is a dream. I'm afraid that dream's turned to a nightmare if you have dangerous cladding. It's an albatross around your head because you can't sell it because of this cladding. I still remember the smell in that June 2017 when I went to Grenfell. I remember the heat from that fire. I've been back again and again and again and again. One of the things Grenfell taught us was there are people living in buildings that are dangerous. If a fire starts, that building goes up very, very quickly. Stay put doesn't apply as an advice. The bad news is it's taken years and this cladding is still up in your property. So we've got watches, waking watches and problems with insurance. So we said to the government, listen, the scheme's not working. Yes, you set aside £1 billion of money, but it's not working. So they've agreed to allow my deputy mayor and the safety minister to be in charge of the joint remediation body to get the money out from Whitehall to get the cladding removed. Trying to find out landowners and managers is taking too long. In the meantime, you're scared because, God forbid, there's a fire tonight, your building isn't safe. But also you can't sell your property. It's an albatross around your neck. So I'm hopeful that we'll be able to do so. There's a real challenge for those buildings less than 11 storey, as 11 metre, there's different rules. Those above 18, those between 11 and 18, those below. We're trying to persuade the government to take action against all of those. By the way, it's not just ACM cladding, there are other combustible materials as well. But I'm confident working with the building safety regulator, with the safety minister, and with City Hall we can make some progress. The bad news, it's not going to happen for some time now because of the backlog of unsafe buildings in London. We have, by the way, Charlene, in London alone, more than double the amount of dangerous buildings the rest of the country put together. This is a London problem.
Okay, thank you very much. Assembly Member Lord Bailey.
Thank you, Charlene. Just to quickly come to homelessness, the Mayor is often accused of cherry-picking his statistics. I'm afraid on this one he has. Homelessness has risen by 63% on his watch. I watch this carefully because I used to be homeless, so I understand the absolute devastation it causes to people's lives. The other thing I say about housing, the Labour government have a target of 1.5 million homes they want to build. There is nothing more I wish them luck with. I hope to high heaven they get that done, but they're nowhere near it. And one of the places that's failing the most is London. Even the government was critical of what's going on in London. We have a target of 88,000 homes. We're not even halfway there yet. And there's no plan that seems like it will deliver anything like that amount of homes. I mean, we've only got 5,500 private homes yet to be built. The GLA, unfortunately, has a checkered history about delivering homes. We've only delivered 2,000 homes on GLA land year on year. The Mayor has vast amounts of land. He has a very good team in City Hall, so I'm not sure why they haven't been able to just get some of this stuff done. I'll accept sometimes it's been tough, but he's been given an enormous sum of money by the Conservatives and the Labour government, and in the end ended up having to pay it back, some of it back. The question you should be asking the Mayor is what's he going to do when he doesn't get enough money? Because when there was a Conservative government, he asked for an extra £2.2 billion every year. That didn't materialise from that government. It isn't materialising from this government. So does that mean he hasn't got enough money to deliver the homes that we do in London? And the thing I'd say about what London's real challenge is helping people who are trapped in really expensive accommodation. The only thing that's going to help rents in London is the delivery of more and more homes. And when it comes to safety, the government have made a move that I think might be positive involving London and the GLA. Our job will be to push and push and push and make sure the Mayor actually delivers on what the government are asking him to deliver on.
Okay, thank you very much. Assembly Member James Small-Edwards.
Thank you very much, Charlene. I'm just going to focus on the gentleman's question about housing affordability, because I think, for me, this is absolutely the most important issue that we face in London, is the affordability of housing. The current situation is that the average rent in London is £2,294, and the average home to buy is 11 times the average salary. So people who've done everything right their entire lives are finding that the social contract has been broken. That option that many generations had before of you work hard, you get a good job, you can look after yourself and your family, that's currently broken. So affordable housing is absolutely key. And what has this Mayor done? Under this Mayor, we've seen house building, 10,000 more homes per year built under this Mayor. We've seen social housing at the highest levels since the 1970s. But the current picture is difficult. The war in Iran really worries me. It's going to push potentially energy costs up in an industry which is so energy intensive, it's going to make it more expensive to build. But despite the difficult international situation, there are, I think, things to be positive about. Just this week, we've had the government announce that they're going to be building 2 new towns in London, at Enfield and at Thamesmead, which I think is going to be brilliant. There are also changes to the National Planning Policy Framework, a very bureaucratic name, doesn't sound very exciting, but it's very important in terms of making it easier to build. And we've also had a record £11.7 billion from the government to build affordable housing over the next 10 years, the biggest settlement ever in generations. So there's been lots done. There's still a hell of a lot more to do. There'd be a lot to lose if we had a different party in control at City Hall.
Thank you very much. Okay, to Assembly Member Hina Bukhari.
Thank you so much, Charlene. I want to talk about affordability as well. I mean, I was pleased to hear that the Mayor said that he was going to make this a priority of making London affordable and an inclusive city. This is his 3rd term as being Mayor of London, and we're in a housing crisis. You know, the fact that a house average cost would be £648,000 is a real issue. Now, this has now resulted in the fact that many people are moving out of this city, and I'm really concerned about the fact that a lot of families are moving out of this city. I'm also the chair of economy, and we've just released a report about the fact that there is a declining number of children in London, and that is because of the housing crisis, the fact that it's not affordable for many families to live in this city. Primary schools are closing down as a result of this. Now, imagine London without the sound of children playing. Just imagine. And that is the prospect of what could potentially happen if we don't fix this crisis now. And that's why we've made recommendations in a cross-party report from the London Assembly on how to fix this. We want London to be a child-friendly city, and we want the London plan to have specific recommendations to make sure that there is housing that is suitable for families and children. And this is the key now. This is what the Mayor of London really needs to start prioritising and focusing on, because a family-friendly city is a friendly city for all of us.
Thank you very much. Assembly Member Zoe Garbett.
Thank you, Charlene. I want to lead by just saying that I think the whole housing system is completely broken. I think there's not enough council homes, rent's too high, people can't afford their homes. You know, the person speaking about living in unsafe housing, because we've got developers that are profiteering from our housing system. It's not, they don't want to provide safe, affordable homes. It's not what they're driven by their profits. And we have a system that completely bows to that. So we're not getting the homes that we need. Just to pick up on something the Mayor said about wanting to deliver different types of homes because people aren't eligible for council homes. That's because councils have changed their eligibility criteria because they've lost homes through right to buy and they are unable to get the funding they need from government to provide the homes we need. So they're having to change the eligibility. People should be able to access a council home if they need it. That's why it exists as a form of as a form of housing. And to address the homelessness crisis, we need rent control so that people can afford to live in their private homes. People are falling out of the private rented sector because they can't afford to stay in the city and stay in their homes, which is why homelessness is increasing. And I think we need to completely treat people who are experiencing homelessness with so much dignity and so much humanity. And I just want to shout out all the amazing organisations helping them, particularly the Museum of Homelessness, which I'd really encourage everyone to go and visit over in Manor House. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to we've got time for another question from the floor. So raise your hands. Let's see. Panel number one, the gentleman just here in the navy blue jumper.
Hi, yeah. I would like to know what are you going to do to ensure that young people like me and my friends who are struggling with unaffordable rents and inability to get onto the housing market, what are you going to do to ensure that young people in the future generations are able to actually live in London and work in London and contribute?
Mr. Mayor.
Great question. So there are currently 2.7 million Londoners living in private rented accommodation, 2.7 million. It's never been so high in recent generations. The main reason for that is our supply of new homes has not met demand. And there are three big problems that people renting privately face. One is the quality of accommodation is rubbish, often. If you complain to your landlord, you can be kicked out for no good reason. Thirdly, the cost of that rent, right? We've got to address all three. The great news is the government's published legislation, the Renters' Rights Act, which will mean that if you've got an issue with your home, damp and mould, the landlord's got to take action. Second issue, they've removed the power of a landlord to evict you for no good reason. The third issue is still a challenge, though, the cost of your rent. Somebody who's starting a job may not earn enough to pay be eligible for a mortgage or to pay decent rent. So an example where the Greens and Labour agree, in City Hall anyway, is I'm also in favour of rent controls. Because we need to stabilise rents to allow people like you to stay in London, because if you leave London, that's a brain drain for our city. And as James said, yes, I'm really proud before the pandemic, put in record numbers of homes, record numbers of council homes, but for the last 2-3 years, we've not built enough. The announcement tomorrow will kickstart house building this year to stem the flow. But I'm afraid this problem was decades in the making. It will take us some time to get out of it. So in the meantime, if we can fix the rental market, you'll want to stay in London, get foundations, so when you're able to afford a deposit, you want to purchase a property in London to raise your family here as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Assembly Member Kripesh Irani.
Thank you, Charlene. Just on those issues around renting, so the Renters' Rights Act will definitely make a positive impact. I hear far too many times from people living across the area I represent, across Brent and Harrow, about how people have been victim to revenge evictions from their landlords, and they've raised issues according to what they felt was right in terms of the standards of living and the accommodation that they're living in, and then unfortunately they've found themselves in a situation where they're being evicted. So thankfully, if you're a renter and you've been playing by the rules and paying your rent, then those protections will exist. But the other area where I do hear concern from residents about is from owner-occupiers, and I know that many in the area that I represent have suffered really following that Liz Truss budget, with the amount they're paying on their mortgage interest in London, thousands of pounds added to families' mortgages overnight. Now, thankfully, in the last year, we've seen free interest rates reductions, which has helped families and lowered those mortgage costs for those families that own homes, but it is making it more challenging for people to get mortgages and ensure that they're paying up to date and are able to meet those costs.
Okay, thank you very much. We've got 2 minutes. So, Assembly Member Alessandro Giorgio.
Thank you, Charlene. The gentleman's question was, what will the Mayor do for you? He's done absolutely nothing for you, and he will never do anything for you. And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. On affordable housing, which you mentioned in your question, he was given £8.82 billion. Now, a normal person could build a lot of good housing with that. He was asked to build 151,000 units. He built half of it. His new mates in this current government gave him £4 billion. £4 billion, and so far he's only built 7,878 homes. House building has collapsed in London by 84% under this mayor. And we heard before, I'm sure when you own your own front door, because it will happen for you one day, you want your own front door, you want it to be in a nice area, perhaps a green area. And this man over here, the Mayor of London, said, we have built a concrete jungle, in response to a previous question. This man and his eco-zealot deputy mayors at the front paid lots of money, now want to destroy London, destroy the green belt, and destroy all parts of greenery and build on our parks. So on the environment and housing, we will take no lectures from this man. This man here, the Mayor of London, all he wants to do is trap people like you in cramped 1 and 2 bedroom tower blocks with no parking, lots of service charges, and he and his cronies are building the expensive slums of the future. That's the reality of this Mayor of London.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, we're out of time on housing and planning, so we're going to move on to London's economy. Sorry. A frog in my throat there. So I'll take 2 questions from the audience and 1 online. Panel number 6, a gentleman in the red jumper.
Hello, my name's Paul. I'm from Bellingham in southeast London. My question is more of an answer, and I'm telling you now, I'm addressing all of you. You are our knights in shining armour. You are the modern equivalent of our knights in shining armour. When you go to battle, we want to hear you fighting for us in London. Deprivation is the biggest single issue that faces this country, and London is facing the worst of it. National benefit rates are crippling London. They are national benefit rates. I emphasise that again. Someone in Blackpool gets the same amount of benefits that people in London get, and we know the cost of living in London is much higher. Someone said about the rent, £2,200. The rent cap is $1,495.
I will need a question. I'm so sorry.
The question is, what are you doing about deprivation? It's mapped, it's there, you've got the full statistics. What are you doing about it?
Thank you very much for that question. Do we have another question from the floor? We've got the gentleman just by panel number 2.
Thank you. I'm actually born in Blackpool, and I think maybe one of the reasons
about that is Blackpool is some of the highest deprived areas in the country, so that might give you an answer with that. But since then, I've studied here in Greenwich, just down the road, and Sadiq Khan, you've spoken a lot about growth in London, growth in jobs, growth in investment, growth in opportunity. But for young people like me trying to build a life here now, it doesn't feel like that. So can I ask, does that growth actually mean growth in taxes, growth in everyday costs like the TfL, and growth in rent? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And we've got a question from Kai in Waltham Forest. Thank you so much for popping a question online, Kai. The question is, my brother hasn't been able to get a job for 18 months since he graduated from university. He's telling me it's because of AI and companies not hiring. What are you doing to support Londoners to get a new job in this new world of AI? So questions are, just to summarise, what are you doing about deprivation? What does growth actually mean? And what are you doing to support Londoners in the new era of AI?
Can I thank all three questions? Paul, firstly, thank you for your question and observation. I think you're right in terms of deprivation being a big challenge in London. It leads to inequalities and it diminishes people's life chances. What we don't want is poverty plus poverty of aspiration. We've got both of those in pockets of London. And so we've got policies from City Hall with our limited resources to alleviate some of that poverty and increase aspirations. So we're helping people with the cost of living crisis in terms of supporting advice centres to give people advice, but also we've got mentors to support young people. We're helping people with more council homes, reducing the housing costs. But the biggest change we've done, Paul, is to persuade the government to change their formula when it comes to allocation of funds. Because what the government was going to do was allocate funds without taking into account housing costs. And the biggest reason why people suffer deprivation, as James said, you do a hard day's work, but you want an honest living, and you don't want to pay exorbitant rents, is we've persuaded the government to include housing costs when it comes to the formula for deprivation. Because the gentleman who was born in Blackburn, but has a privilege of living in London now, is right. We shouldn't pit Blackpool versus London. It's not Blackpool versus London. There's deprivation in Blackpool, and there's deprivation in London. And what they've got in common is we can lift them from that deprivation with the right support from City Hall, councils, government, and we're doing so. So to answer your question in relation to why I'm obsessed with growth, is growth leads to more jobs, it leads to better paid jobs, it leads to prosperity, it leads to high living standards. So when you finish your degree at Greenwich or the course you're doing, there'll be hopefully a high skilled, well paid job for you because our policies have led to growth in London. It's our policies that are leading to, for example, us having a fantastic life sciences week, a fantastic tech week, us being voted the #1 city in the world, people wanting to invest here. JP Morgan Chase want to come here, Google want to come here, Visa want to come here, Apple want to come here. That is growth, that is good. And hopefully the education you'll receive will give you the skills to apply for those jobs, which will give you the benefits of growth. And it's really important we understand that having policies that lead to austerity, that stifle growth, is good for nobody. If jobs are created, they're poorly paid and not good for somebody who wants to raise a family. Which goes to the third question, Charlene, which I think is so profound and so important in terms of what is the future of work in London. And AI is changing our lives at a speed none of us realises. There have been three big changes in the last 200 years. There's been industrialisation. Many cottage jobs were replaced by factories, changed the whole way our country worked. There was globalisation. Parts of the world could make things cheaper than us, led to some towns having closures with their mills and factories closing down, and now it's AI. And the reason why AI is so serious to London, it will impact white-collar jobs, professional services, banking, legal, accountancy, creative sector. So we're doing two things to respond to that challenge. One is we're setting up a task force to look at the future of work in London as a consequence of AI. And secondly, we're going to allocate £20 million to train up every single Londoner to have the skills in AI to augment their job. Because what we don't want is to be left behind during this AI revolution. And we're going to set up guardrails so AI can work effectively in London, but we benefit from AI in London. And for those watching this or reading this or listening to this who don't know what AI is, I mean, it's coming to every one of us, and City Hall will be the helping hand to take us through this revolution so it benefits you, your families and our city.
Thank you very much. Assembly Member Susan Hall.
Thank you. It's a sorry situation when we can't grow the economy, because that, of course, would help deprivation, it would help everybody, it would help people that can't get jobs, because then they fall into the poverty trap, and so it goes on. So when our wonderful Chancellor said that she was looking for growth, and so did the Prime Minister, I think we were all hopeful. And then one of the first things that happened was the increase in national insurance for employers. Well, why they thought that was a good idea, I do not know. Having run a business myself for at least 40 years, I can tell you the cost of employing people is getting higher and higher. Therefore, employers will think twice before they employ people. And it is employment that gives people something to be proud of if they can go out to work. It will help the economy go round. But if we also look at new introductions of rules for the first time, if you go and work for somebody, you've got rights right from the beginning. You talk to employers, that puts them off. If they're going to employ somebody, if it's cheaper to employ them and train somebody up, they will do that. If, because the basic wage, and I understand why everybody thinks it's a good idea, but if that amount is so high they could employ somebody that's actually got experience at virtually the same amount, they will do that. And that's a disservice to our youngsters who need to get in there and get experience. The number of people can't get jobs because the employers are looking for experience. They can't get experience because to employ a young person and train them costs so much money now. So we look at a government that came in on the basis of change and wanting to grow the economy, and they're doing the exact opposite. And of course, that's having a massive effect on London. You also look at the rate of council tax has gone up under this mayor every single year. And as has been said before, there are so many extra charges that this mayor has put on us all, and it's dragging us all down, and that will affect everything that anybody's spoken about.
Okay, thank you very much. Assembly Member Anne Clark.
Hello and good evening. I'm going to start with you, Paul. I agree. Deprivation is the single biggest issue. When I'm in my constituency, or indeed across London, it's deprivation that comes up time and time again. And it is a real stain on the city and on our country. In London, though, we do have a mayor who recognises the impact that poverty has on our people, on our children, on people trying to get into work. I think it's a real relief to certainly the Labour group at City Hall, who has long campaigned to lift the two-child benefit cap. That is a game changer. That means 50,000 children in London will come out of poverty. That's just exceptional. Having this mayor also means that every child in a state primary school is getting a free school meal every day. And that's not just addressing inequalities. It means there's better behavior, it means there's better attendance. And I hear from school staff that they actually are seeing the benefits themselves of having well-fed children at school every day. But it also means that from the government, the apprenticeship levies, £2,000 for every company taking on a young apprentice. That's also a game changer. It's good for the businesses, it's good for the young people, it's good for aspiration, and ultimately, that's good for London. But on to growth. I mean, London is the UK's powerhouse. We're the engine of Britain's economy. With only 13% of the population, we produce 24% of the UK's economy and 25% of its tax revenues. And that's why this government, having a mayor that believes in London and having a government that believes in London, is a game changer. We no longer have that government that just spent its time talking down London day in and day out. We now have a government that believes in London. And actually, if you look around London, you start to see, it's not, of course, we all know it's the #1 city in the world, but we keep seeing it reported in pretty much every poll. And just today, we won another award for being the best city in the world. But also, but also from computing to tech to our West End. We compete globally and almost always come out number one. Our West End continues to outsell New York's Broadway, and that is exceptional. And on top of that, we have a mayor who beats the drum for London on an international stage. And there are people on this stage who will talk down the mayor for going abroad to promote London. But you know what? In these globally economic challenging times, having a mayor who's out there selling London on the global stage pays massive dividends. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Assembly Member Joanne McCartney.
Thank you. And I just wanted to come to Paul's question about deprivation, which is also, I think, linked to the cost of living question we had as well. And Anne Clark has talked about the Mayor's free school meals programme, and when I visit schools, which I do regularly, not only do I see that that programme has actually made a massive difference to families and pupils. 84% say it's really helped them with their family finances, but we also hear stories of children now being well fed, but also schools not chasing dinner money debt, which means that parents have better relationships with their schools. And of course, with this new government's breakfast clubs, we will be seeing London school children getting not only a free breakfast, but a free lunch as well. And that is really excellent news. I also have to make a plug for the Mayor's work on benefit take-up. Because one of the things that he's done is invested money that's really paid back to Londoners. So over 130,000 Londoners have benefited from extra welfare take-up, generating nearly £100 million extra for those most vulnerable families. And I'm pleased that now a lot of that advice work is going to be based in the new family hubs that are coming online in our communities, so that people can have a one-stop shop to get support, and that's really important. So a lot of work being done, a lot more to do, but I think we are making those changes. And of course, we've now got the child poverty strategy, which has actions for all of us and is going to be a real game changer too.
Thank you very much. Assembly Member Lord Bailey, we've still got a couple of minutes.
Thank you. The question was asked what the Mayor can do. Well, what the Mayor can do more of is stand up for London. There's hundreds of millions of pounds being threatened to be taken away from London. There's been Labour MPs who've been celebrating the fact that that money is going. He should take them on, because we have as much deprivation in London as any other place in the country. Our councils need that money, and the idea that the streets of London are paved with gold simply isn't true. Since we've had our Labour government, unemployment has gone up every month since they've been in government. The people most devastated by this are young people. The Mayor should be taking on the government about this rise in NI and the effect it's had on the now non-existent career of young people. And anybody knows about young people, the later they start their economic journey, the shorter that journey is. So he could be taking on the government there. The other thing to say is, as well, the growth in tax. We have the biggest tax burden for such a long time, and it's growing under this government. And it was spoken about as if this government hasn't grown it. And then somebody talked about the Liz Truss budget. Well, the budget we've had since then, the two budgets we've had since then, have made the situation worse for unemployed families, for unemployed people and families. And the single biggest thing that fights deprivation is employment. Employment outperforms welfare every single time. So if this government wants to grow, what it should be doing is growing employment. There's people in our economy, if the top end of the economy gets big, if the bank gets big, it'll make no difference to your household income. And that's what we're after in London. We're after the poorest families in London having more of their own money, keeping more of their own money, and supporting themselves. And the Mayor has talked a lot about free school meals and breakfast. I don't have a problem with that, but I would argue the more effective use of that money would be to give it directly to those parents. If we're going to spend that money, let the parents have that money and make the decision where they need to put it most in their household. I trust parents, and they should be given that responsibility.
Okay, thank you very much. Right, we have reached the end of London's economy section. For the remainder of the time, we are going to cover topics or questions that you feel you haven't had a chance to ask as yet. It's going to, things like education, health and culture, for example. It will work as it has before, 2 questions from the audience and a question online. So if we could take the lady, paddle number 6, there's a lady in a red jacket and a blue scarf. There we go.
Thank you very much. I have travelled 3 hours today from Harrow because Mayor hasn't been to Harrow, done question time. I'd love him to do. But my question is, it's in my backyard, housing is going to come. My son had to move to Brighton because he will not be able to afford the housing that is being built in Harrow, and there's no infrastructure for schools or NHS. What is Mayor going to do about it?
Okay, thank you very much. Can we get another question from the audience? We've got paddle number 7. There's a lady just right next to you in a brown jacket.
Hi, everyone. I'm very concerned about young people and the effects of mental health that they are facing, from things such as stress, pressure of exams, and things like that. As the mayor, I want to know what you're doing to protect these children and these young people from things like support that you're putting in place for them, how they are able to maneuver themselves in the communities and local areas such as schools, playgrounds and at home.
Okay, thank you very much. And we've got a question from Leanne in Barnet, who posted her question online. Thanks, Leanne. The attacks on those ambulances in Barnet earlier this week were horrific. What's your response and what are you going to do to bring communities together? It feels like there's so much hate and division going around right now. So, to summarise, we have a question about unaffordable housing in Harrow, a question about young people and mental health, and that third question regarding bringing communities together following that attack on the Jewish ambulances in Golders Green.
Well, can I thank all 3 questions? Firstly, the mum who's worried about her son not being able to live near her because of housing being out of reach. That's a big source of concern for many Londoners, that the homes that are being built aren't being built for Londoners. And that's why we've got to make sure that the homes we're building are genuinely affordable for Londoners. In the past, we've had too many homes that are built that are bought off-plan by overseas investors. I've got nothing against foreigners. Some of my best friends in the family are foreigners. But we've got to have homes for Londoners rather than people using our homes as gold bricks to invest in. And you know, it goes to fairness. It's unfair that your son's being priced out of London. It's unfair you're having to be separate from your son because of the inability to live in London. And that's one of the reasons why I'm really pleased this government has agreed a package of measures which we'll announce tomorrow to address this issue. I want homes for Londoners. I want to apologise for saying that. The second issue is an issue that probably 20 years ago we wouldn't talk about, which is the rise of mental ill health. And can I just put on record my thanks, because we've got the head of the London Ambulance Service here tonight, and the Ambulance Service do an amazing job in terms of helping people who are mentally unwell. They've got trained specialists inside their call centre, I've met them, who can sometimes help people on the phone who may need medical help because of mental ill health. We've also made sure the police are focused on crime fighting rather than dealing with people who are mentally unwell, who may have a crisis. But you're right to refer to young people and dealing with it at the early stage. And so even though we're not required by law to do it, we're doing a huge amount in this area. We've set up something called Thrive London. We're funding grassroots communities to help people be mentally fit. We're talking about physical fitness. What about mental fitness? And what about giving young people the skills through good apps to get advice without medicalising them? We know because of austerity, there's big waiting lists for CAMS, Child Adolescent Mental Health Services. It takes ages to see somebody there. We know sometimes the challenges it causes in school. So working with the health sector, schools, communities to try and address this at an early age. And it's never been more difficult to be young in terms of the pressure with the apps and the algorithms and so forth. Many parents feel ill-equipped in 2026 to help young people. So we're doing lots of work in relation to this. And I think the biggest change, for young people now is we're reopening youth clubs. We're funding youth workers because many youth workers are big brothers, big sisters. They're like a surrogate parent. We're giving them the skills to address the issue of mental health as well. It's so important. I've been trained as a first aid mental health supporter. Suicide awareness training is really important as well. The biggest cause of death for men under the age of 50 is suicide. Sometimes mental health issues not treated early doors can lead to that being grown. So it's a really big issue, and we're doing what we can from City Hall, and it's good to have a Secretary of State for Health and Social Care who believes in this area as well. Third question, look, I deliberately, during my speech, Charlene, referred to what I think are, it's a dark day for our city. Not just anti-Semitic, not just hate-filled, but burning ambulances, and the Jewish community is so small. Anti-Semitism is one of the oldest forms of hatred we know. Jewish people don't just, feel scared. They also know evidences from whether it's Yom Kippur in Manchester, whether it's October the 7th, 2023 in Israel. You can go back thousands of years, and it will come into the festival of Passover, which talks about the Exodus from Egypt, the prophet Moses. And so, look, I think all of us need to be good allies to our Jewish friends, neighbours and colleagues. But you know what, Charlene? There are some people who will use this as an excuse to divide our communities, to turn us against each other, using what's happening thousands of miles away to turn Jewish against Muslim, Hindu against Sikh, Labour versus Tory. We can't allow them to succeed. And that's why it's really important we gave a massive, massive show of affection by applauding our Jewish friends and neighbours. And now let's do it in real tangible way by this Passover during the Seder meal, breaking bread with our Jewish friends and neighbours so they know they're not alone.
Okay, thank you very much. Assembly Member Anne Clark.
Yeah, thank you for that. I just want to pick up on the third question. Sadiq started this evening by showing love to our Jewish community, and I want to echo all of that. I think it's notable that of everything said here tonight, that received the most applause, and I think that is how the very, very vast majority of Londoners feel about our Jewish community, and I want them to know how loved they are and how much they are valued by everyone on this stage and by everyone in this room and the very, very vast majority of people. Just as a reminder, this is the same area where we saw scenes a few weeks ago of people holding Israeli flags, people holding Iranian flags, and even some American flags, of people dancing in the street as the Ayatollah was disposed of in Iran. I mean, it's the same community that looks after each other. It's the first area that I was aware of during the pandemic when neighbors were helping each other and where people have always come together throughout time. I was there on Monday morning, having received the news, and Kaya Comer-Schwartz, the Deputy Mayor for Policing, came. West Streeting was there, and our local MP, Sarah Sackman, as well. We were there to thank everyone who had been involved overnight, to thank Hatzola in particular, but also the CST, to Shomrim, the Metropolitan Police, and the London Fire Brigade, who all acted so ably in that horrific anti-Semitic attack. I think what we all need to see more of, plainly, is education. I see the government has put money into the Holocaust Education Trust so that our young people can hear from survivors, can hear people who've heard from survivors. But it's also that this government is putting more money into the CST, guaranteeing them extra money every single year, and that protects our Jewish schools, it protects our Jewish institutions. That's protection that they shouldn't have to have. But the truth is that because anti-Semitism is so vile, that they need it, and it's a very sad reality. The other thing this government has done, they've removed the right of people to wear face masks when they go on protests. They've also given the Met the ability to disband those protests, such as one in my constituency that was happening every single week in Swiss Cottage. That's no longer allowed to happen. So they've given real powers to the Met. They've started that. I don't think it's gone quite far enough, but they've given more money to Jewish security, and they've also crucially replaced those ambulances that were lost. So thank you very much for the question, and just once again, big love to our Jewish community in London.
Thank you very much. Okay, Assembly Member Caroline Russell.
Thank you, Chair. That frightening attack in the small hours of Monday morning that we all woke up to was really, really shocking, frightening, and Sadiq described burning ambulances. I mean, really, what a terrible, terrible thing to have done. And I think the outpouring of solidarity with the Jewish community in Golders Green and also across the country has been really heartwarming to see, and it has been a reminder of the importance that everyone stands up against all hate, against anti-Semitism and against Islamophobia, because we're living through very divided times, and the forces of division that seek to pull us apart and to foster hatred are far too present in society, on social media, and in our communities. So I think the important thing is that hate must never win, and that we must all stand together. Thank you.
And finally, Assembly Member Bassam Mahfouz.
Thank you very much, Charlene. I'll start off with the first
2 minutes.
First two questions around mental health, public services, schools, and we heard a lot about under the economy section about the employers' national insurance contributions, and the reason we were told there was no reason behind that. The reason was because we had a crippled NHS. It had been crippled by 14 years of chronic underfunding. And the Employers' National Insurance Fund was intended to turn that around. And in 18 months, we've seen when you weren't able to get a doctor's appointment, you weren't able to see a dentist, you weren't able to get that consultant's appointment when you needed it the most. That has been turned around in 18 months because of that additional funding. In terms of young people, absolutely hear what you're saying, and I hear it time and time again when I speak to young people. The government has put in £1 billion new deal to support young people, and they expanded that to under 25s to help them get their first jobs, to get them onto the career ladder. But look, let me address that third question, that critical question that we've got this evening. And look, it was absolutely horrific, unbelievable that anybody in this world would do something like that to ambulances and to the Jewish community here in London. And as somebody from South Lebanon myself, and I've got family who are there and in that situation right now, I stand proudly to say I stand side by side, shoulder by shoulder with the Jewish community here in London against all violence, against all hatred, against the anti-Semitism that we have seen in this city. There is no place for that. No place for that in this city or anywhere else in this world.
Okay.
And what I've seen as well, if I may say, Charlene, is that I used to run a refugee charity before coming onto this assembly. And what I've seen in my own area in West Drayton in the last few months is absolutely horrific. But what I'm delighted to see, again, that leadership through the mayor, is that he created, despite the opposition from some members, of a loved and wanted campaign. That money is now going into local communities to bring communities together. And what we must say together, collectively, is that everybody across London, no matter what your background, no matter who you are loved and wanted. And that hope will always defeat hate in our great city.
All right,
Thank you
very much. Thank you. Well, our our time is at an end. Thank you so much for everyone who has joined us physically in Greenwich. Thank you so much. Thank you to those who have joined us online. Don't forget to keep an eye on the website, london.gov.uk, for details of the next People's Question Time. If your questions weren't answered, email them to mayor@london.gov.uk, and you should get a response within 20 working days. Don't forget, I've literally got like 20 seconds, so bear with me for the 20 seconds. Remember to complete your online feedback form. There are QR codes around the room. Use your phone, get the details. And good night. Have a wonderful journey home. You've been a brilliant audience. Thank you.